7.5, for some people, they really don't have a good idea in their head, like when they hear centimeter or meter or kilometer, kind of what's what. And that makes this section a little bit tougher, but that's really kind of the point of the section, is to kind of get some of that down, is what would be decent units to pick for something if you're measuring the speed of a car versus the speed of, I don't know, like a slug crawling across a log or something like that. But if you have your car, maybe do I want to try to write? I don't know if I'd write this in, but with your car, your speedometer measures things in
miles per hour.
Miles per hour, yes? And it means something. Like if, and I don't know if this is worth writing now, but 30 miles per hour, when you hear that, you probably have a pretty good idea for how fast the car is going, right? Is this a highway speed? No, this is more kind of like neighborhood street, supposed to go 25. Most cars kind of go 30 unless there's lots of cars on the side or kids or houses really close by or something. But it's about that. And that makes a whole lot more sense than if I were to tell you, so I was driving my car and I got pulled over. And I was like totally ticked off because he wrote me a ticket and I was only doing 40,000 inches per minute. I shouldn't have got a ticket for going 40,000 inches per minute, you know. It was a highway, for heaven's sakes, you know. It's like, but that's the 30 miles per hour. Just one unit, one of those numbers makes a lot of sense to us. The other one is just messed up. Good idea? Make sense? Okay. So what are the official notes then? I'm going to say pick reasonable units. And then when I try to test this type of thing on a quiz or test, typically I'll ask a question, kind of have in my mind, like, this is probably what you should answer. But if you have an answer that's different than that, kind of like, yeah, I can see that, or no, really, that doesn't make sense. If you can, unit rates are nice, And if you remember, basically that's always going to be a number divided by 1. Kind of like my example at the top, that 30 miles per hour. The 30, you could look at it as those 30 miles over 1 hour. That's going to make a little bit more sense than if I were to say, my wife and I, we went on a road trip over spring break with our kids, and we drove 372 miles in 5 hours. You know, it's like, so were we going fast? Were we going slow? You have to think about it a whole lot more to figure out, is that an okay number? Where if instead we were to say we were going 75 miles an hour, which is probably pretty close to that, you know, then you know how fast we were going. So 75 miles per hour being the unit rate. Make sense? Okay. So, and to get unit rates, we just divide the numbers. Agreed?
Yep.
So if you wanted to say, example, I killed 4 deer with 7 bullets. So they're arguing you should say 0.57 deer per bullet. So half a deer per bullet. You know, you're killing a deer about half of the time you shoot.
You want us to write that?
I'd skip it. I think my example up above was better with the
That's not
372 and the other.
Accurate. You're killing a deer half the time you shoot.
So track, we got some track people there. Sprinters, how are we going to measure sprinter speed?
Feet. Miles per hour.
So you could do miles per hour.
I don't know. Yards. Or feet per step.
I don't know if I do feet per step. If you're looking at speed, speed is distance over time. You could say feet per
Minute?
Yards.
feet per minute.
Feet per
If
second.
they're fast, I'd probably say feet per second, or maybe even meters per second. You know, if you have somebody run the 100-meter dash in 10 seconds, you could do the division there and figure out, oh, they're going 10 meters per second.
That's bad.
I really don't know. I was a distance
I'm pretty sure
person.
Usain Bolt has like 9 something. 9?
What would be, I would have guessed he was more in the 6s, but that's probably wrong. So, okay. Amount of water through a hose. If I'm running my sprinkler, want to figure out how much water I'm using, I'd measure that probably in. Or-
Water per leg.
Per second.
Water per
Well, how do you measure the amount of water?
Gallon.
Gallons?
Gallons minute. Gallons per second.
Do any of you guys look at your shower head? If you have a water-saving shower head, and it'll say gallons per gallons per minute. So
Got it.
gallons per minute is going to be probably the better. Gallons per second, maybe if you had like a really big like water distribution hose or pipe from like your fire hydrant or something like that. But gallons per minute would more be like a garden hose. My mom, true story, paid my sister $1 for every 20 gray hairs she plucked out.
What?
My mom was turning gray and she didn't like it, so I remember we'd be in the car. This is back before you had to have airbags, all that in your car. And my sister would be unbuckled, sitting behind my mom plucking gray hair, so we went down the road. So if we had to figure out the cost per hair,
That is like disgusting.
cost per hair.
Per dollar.
Okay. Well, what number goes on top?
$1 per hair.
Okay.
Like 20 hairs per dollar.
So if we're trying to do cost per hair, this thing here, we're focused, cost per hair. We have to put the cost on the top. So the dollar has to go on the top. Per always means division.
Dollar per plus.
So then hair goes on the bottom. So what number goes on the bottom?
20.
20. So if you were to do $1 divided by 20, maybe say hair, that's going to give you 0.05. So $0.05 per hair.
So 5 cents.
Or what maybe would make more sense would be to say 5 cents per hair. So she'd pay her a nickel for every gray hair she found and plucked out.
They should get $1.
Work for you? You could always take and do the reciprocal as well and say 20 over $1 and get hairs per dollar. But that wouldn't answer this question because they wanted the cost per hair. So that's all I have for the section.